Welcome back, Wulfpak. It's the moment you've all been waiting for, part 2 of my deep dive into Matt Reeves, the Batman. This video will be all about the story that most believe the Batman is at least loosely based on, The Long Halloween. I'm sure you all guessed that one by now, especially with the timing. Matt Reeves has stated that this story is not based on any individual Batman tale, but, as stated in my last video, Batman ego is a major influence in his scriptwriting. However, many fans have noticed and pointed out that this film is shaping up to include a lot more than just a few nods and winks from The Long Halloween. How, you ask? Well, the best place to start is Batman The Long Halloween is a 1996 to 1997 13-issue series written by Jeph Loeb, illustrated by Tim Sale, and published by DC Comics. The basis of the story itself follows a series of murders which only occur on holidays, each issue, of course, representing and focusing on a specific holiday. We start off in June at the Falcone estate, where crime lord Carmine Falcone is throwing a wedding celebration for his nephew Johnny Vitti. We learn the reason for this is that Johnny doesn't have a great relationship with Uncle Carmine and was about to rat on him. As a form of quid pro quo, Carmine instead covers 100% of the cost for Johnny's wedding. We see that Carmine is looking to make some of his money back by inviting a very personal guest, Bruce Wayne. Falcone is trying to have Bruce provide his influence to have Gotham Bank work with Falcone Imports. You know, because he has dirty money that's just begging to be laundered. Falcone tells Bruce that their fathers used to be closer than friends, so Bruce owes it to his father to work with Carmine. Bruce tells Falcone that he only believes in Harvey Dent, not a deal between Falcone and the bank. After walking out on Falcone, Carmine's right-hand man Milos offers to try and get Bruce to bend the knee, but Carmine says he doesn't need Wayne for the votes, he just would have severely helped. Carmine's good son, Alberto Falcone, catches Bruce sneaking around the mansion, but he talks his way out of it, a la BVS. Batman vs. Superman. Roll the clip.
May I help you, Mr. Wayne?
I just thought the bathroom was down here. I must have... That last martini was too many, I think.
Men's room's upstairs.
Great. I'm okay. I like those shoes.
Alberto tells his father about this, but after Carmine tells Alberto he doesn't want him involved, they are interrupted by CCTV footage of Harvey Dent in the garage, doing some snooping of his own. While all of this occurs, we see Bruce happen upon Selina Kyle, and they start to dance, sharing dialogue showing that they already have somewhat of a history together. Although, neither is aware of the other's alter ego. We see Harvey self-monologuing before being whacked over the head and getting beaten by Falcone's thugs. Bruce and Selina find him in the garage, but are shrugged off. Selina asks if he's a friend of Bruce's, to which he says, "I believe in Harvey Dent," a recurring theme in this series. Selina asks Bruce if he's done for the night, which he admits, against his own urges, that he is. Duty calls for the Bat. Harvey arrives at Gordon's office and asks for a drink before recounting the events of the evening. Harvey then says he has a friend that wants to help with their Falcone problem. Probably stop doing that a little quick. It's fine. Editor, just put something in post, just fixing that one. We then cut to Bruce returning to the party as Batman to inspect a safe he saw in Falcone's office. As soon as he enters, Batman comes across Catwoman trying to steal the contents of the safe. A fight ensues before Falcone's thugs interrupt. Batman chases Catwoman seeking information on why she's there, but Catwoman disappears. The aftermath of this involves Falcone placing $1 million bounty on both the Bat and the Cat. Batman meets up with Gordon and Dent, revealing himself to be the friend that Harvey was mentioning. They discuss Falcone's financial hold over Gotham and why he's impossible to put away. Gordon finally states that Batman can bend the rules, just not break them. All three men agree to this, and Batman disappears while leaving behind Falcone's stolen ledger. The night ends, and we now see Bruce in the board meeting with the bank regarding Falcone imports. We also see that Bruce is the only voice in opposition to Falcone, and Richard Daniel, Falcone's guy in the bank and on the board, is gathering support from everyone else. As a last-ditch effort, Batman makes a late-night visit to Richard Daniel's extravagantly out of his normal price range penthouse and urges him not to take Falcone's money. The next day, we learn that Daniel resigns as bank chief, and Bruce Wayne takes over. As August comes, we see the two biggest crime lords in Gotham meet. Carmine Falcone and his arch nemesis, Salvatore Maroni, discuss how, thanks to Bruce Wayne, no bank in Gotham will even touch them. In order to sort this out further, Falcone calls for Johnny Viti's return from his honeymoon. This is essentially where the prologue ends and the story begins. Johnny Viti is gunned down silently in the bathtub. All that can be found at the scene are a taped-up .22 caliber pistol with the serial number filed off. While Batman is being briefed on the murder, we see that Catwoman is listening in on the conversation from afar, but not without the world's greatest detective figuring it out. She mentions that there is a bounty on both of their heads, and she can be helpful. In return, she just wants to promise a future help from the Dark Knight if needed. While Batman is apprehensive and not in a position to make any promises, he decides to hear Catwoman out. Catwoman's info leads Batman and Harvey to Falcone's stash of laundered money. After Harvey jokes about taking it, to which Batman really doesn't find funny, they light his stack of untraceable cash on fire. Harvey gets home to finish passing out candy with his wife when a package sent to his house an hour prior explodes. Harvey Dent is dead. Gordon and Batman find that Mickey the Mick Sullivan is the culprit of the bombing of the Dent's home. Mickey denies it, but Batman shows him that they have the serial number of the nail used in the bomb, linking it to Mickey. There's a lot of use of serial numbers in this story. I'm just telling you that right off the bat. Mickey ultimately confesses, but doesn't implicate Carmine in the bombing, and then accuses Dent of being the one that killed Johnny Viti. After a flickering of the lights, we see that Mickey is brought down to his cell, only to be brought back up again shortly. It's then revealed when we saw the lights go out that Harvey was undercover as Mickey following the confession. He was trying to get more info from the rest of Mickey's gang, but came up empty. Harvey astoundingly suggests letting them walk since he's not dead, saying that they'll cut a plea. Gordon and Batman press him to charge on attempted murder since his wife is in the hospital and his house was blown up. But Dent says that without any hard evidence, they'll cut bail in less than 2 hours. The thugs made bail in less than 1 hour. Harvey spent Thanksgiving at his wife's hospital bedside, and Gordon made it home after dinner ended. Thanksgiving ends with Mickey and his gang being gunned down with the same silenced .22. We see the killer is now being referred to as Holiday, due to their affinity for killing on the holidays, obviously. Batman is told that Joker has escaped and robbed a family. Very Grinch-like, if I might add. Batman and Gordon go to speak with another type of holiday killer, the incarcerated Calendar Man. He states he thinks the killer is a woman, but is otherwise unhelpful in doing anything besides reminding them of all the upcoming holidays. We then see through a meeting with one of his goons at a restaurant that Maroni has planted someone in Dent's office to keep an eye on him. Since they suspect him as the killer, that goon then dies in a fit of laughter as we see the waiter is the Joker. Joker accuses Maroni of being Holiday, but he denies this claim and gives the same answer shortly then after to Batman. Harvey brings his wife home to their new house, which he states he can't afford on his regular salary. Harvey comes to find Joker in his new house saying the same Grinchy lines that he used on that last family that he robbed. Harvey attacks him, but Joker gets the upper hand and threatens Harvey that if he finds out he is Holiday, that he'll be back, and he'll be less forgiving this time. Joker visits Falcone and tells him that he will kill everyone in Gotham until Holiday is found. He is chased away by Milos, who is then killed by Holiday immediately after. Same 22. We learn through Batman that Joker plans to unleash his gas on Gotham at midnight. Batman also deduces that Holiday seems to have the Joker more unhinged than usual. At this same time, we see that Harvey learns of the connection between the Waynes and the Falcones and assumes that connection still exists with Carmine and Bruce. Falcone accuses Maroney of being responsible for Holiday since all his men are being killed. While this happens, we see that Holiday kills Alberto Falcone. The Gordons celebrate New Year with the Dents, and Harvey speaks with Jim about Bruce Wayne. Batman is able to stop Joker just before midnight. Gordon and Dent arrive at Wayne Manor looking for Bruce, but he's gone. Dent asks Alfred if Falcone ever hung around with Thomas Wayne, but Alfred deflects the question. Batman confronts Falcone about Holiday at Alberto's grave, but Catwoman interrupts. Afterwards, we see Bruce and Selina then meet up, unaware that they just had, for a date. While walking outside, Bruce is offered a rose, which Selina buys for him, and Bruce pricks his finger on the thorn. We now shift to Dent's office, where we learn that Dent's new assistant, Vernon, is the plant that Maroney put in his office. We then see that all of Maroney's men have been killed, sparking Maroney to want to go to war. Cutting back, we see that Bruce gets home, but isn't acting himself. Poison Ivy is found not only to be in the house, but was the person that gave him the rose. I think we all see where this is going. The prick from the rose put Bruce under her spell. It's now a new day, and we see Bruce at the monthly board meeting, but with a different opinion on Falcone and the bank from before. We see vines are covering Bruce's body under his clothes as Bruce ignores Selina while entering his limo. Selina and the reader get a glimpse of Poison Ivy in Bruce's limo. Cut to Dent reveling in the fact that the two crime families are wiping each other out, to which Gordon of course objects because that's crazy.
Lights out! Now you want to get nuts? Come on! Let's get nuts.
Cut again to see the arrival of Falcone's daughter, Sophia. She speaks to her Aunt Carla and reveals that Falcone is going to hit Maroney on St. Patrick's Day. Finally, we witness Bruce and Ivy eating dinner at Wayne Manor. Catwoman interrupts, but Bruce tries to stop her, causing Catwoman to go ahead and cut the vines on Bruce, therefore ending Poison Ivy's spell on him. Ivy then leaves Wayne Manor. The Maroney gang is killed, but not by the Falcones. Later that night, Batman thanks Catwoman for helping Bruce with Ivy. He knows deep in his mind, the internal thoughts that we can only see in comics for Batman, that he still owes her. At the same time, we learn that Ivy was hired by Falcone to go after Bruce. We see Falcone bring in Riddler to try and discover who Holiday is, however he is unable to pinpoint a suspect. Batman is speculating on suspects as well, to which Alfred inquires why he has overlooked Harvey Dent. Batman admits he's the strongest suspect, but he hopes he's wrong. After being thrown out, Riddler is held up by Holiday and outlined in bullets, but not shot. Riddler is unable to ID Holiday, and he becomes the only victim that lives. Scarecrow breaks out of GCPD and Batman hunts him down. He's finally able to catch him, but finds the Scarecrow to be an actual scarecrow. Gordon and Dent arrive at Wayne Manor, where Bruce is again not home, and Alfred reminds them of the importance of this day to Bruce. Bruce is honoring his mom in Crime Alley. Again, I know I said this before, but especially if I had money, I'm not going into Crime Alley. It's where the crime happens, man! When Gordon appears to talk to him, Bruce freaks out due to his trauma and runs, ultimately being found hugging his mother's tombstone and crying. During all this, Sophia Falcone finds out who makes the guns for Holiday, but she gets there too late. Holiday is struck and the manufacturer is dead. The night ends with Bruce in jail recalling the night his father saved Carmine Falcone's life. On trial, Dent tries to accuse Bruce of working with Carmine. Alfred, while on the stand, rejects this notion while reminding Dent that just months after saving Carmine, the Waynes were gunned down, and the killer was never brought to justice. Harvey's argument begins to fall apart, and Bruce is quickly acquitted. We then see that Holiday shoots and kills Maroney's father, the former head of the Maroney crime family. Tables have turned. We then see that Harvey received the infamous coin from his father. He mentions the entire trial seemed like a game of chance as he flips the coin repeatedly. We also learn that the Mad Hatter is assisting Scarecrow under the thumb of Falcone, so Maroney tricks Dent into a meeting to ask him for help. We see Holiday shoot someone into the river we later learn was the Gotham coroner. Cut to Bruce enjoying a drink with Selina at Wayne Manor. Selina implores Bruce to leave Gotham with her, but this is left unresolved as we see the bat signal shine up into the sky. Batman meets with Dent, and Dent says it was a mistake to go after Bruce, but now Maroni is willing to testify against Falcone. Sophia visits Maroni in jail, where we see she has been working for and in relations with Maroni. I know, these twists and turns just keep getting crazier and crazier. Batman and Gordon investigate the docks, where Batman asks of Harvey's whereabouts during the killing. Suddenly, fireworks go off, but only after all the other city fireworks have already ended, which raises some concerns. This was for good reason, as we learn that these fireworks were a front for missiles being fired at the bank. Batman finds Scarecrow and Mad Hatter attempting to rob the bank. Catwoman arrives, taking out Hatter after Batman takes out Crane. Batman refuses her very friendly advances, and then Catwoman just leaves. We cut to Harvey's wife finding him in the basement, along with evidence from the case that includes the .22 pistol. She asks for him to speak to her about why he brought home evidence, but he shuts her out, saying he always brings home evidence. Now, it's time for the most well-known holiday of all. Okay, so I was setting you up for that one. This is our one non-holiday, however, that doesn't make it any less eventful. Batman walks into a bar. No, it's not one of those jokes. Batman enters a bar during the day to seek info on the case. He finds Riddler, the only surviving victim, but he obviously can't offer much help. The Maroni trial begins, and while heading in, Vernon hands Maroni a gift from Mr. Dent for Maroni's stomach problems. We find out that the stomach stuff was actually a bottle of acid. I'm sure you can all guess where this is going from here, but it's that very bottle of acid that's thrown into the face of Harvey Dent. Dent escapes the hospital after stabbing a doctor in the back. Two-Face is born. The day ends with us witnessing Holiday killing Carla Vitti, Johnny's mother and Carmine's sister. Dent has now been missing for a month. Gordon and Batman deduce together that Dent is Holiday, but Batman still refuses to believe it. Gordon tells him to find Harvey. Batman confronts Falcone on Dent's whereabouts. He says he doesn't know, but he gives us our
roll credits
moment by coining the last year as the Long Halloween. Falcone blames Batman and the GCPD for allowing his family to be gunned down. Batman throws Falcone back and disappears into the night. Catwoman is waiting for Batman, but Batman demands the truth.
You can't handle the truth!
She dances with her words and disappears. Batman confronts Mrs. Dent in her basement seeking info and finds that Dent has been filing the gun in the basement. You remember all that missing serial number business? We learned Maroni was shot 3 times after attacking Dent, but didn't die. While being moved, Holiday reveals himself as one of the prison guards and shoots and kills Maroni. Holiday then shoots the other guard and moves in on Gordon, but we see that the other guard is actually Batman. Batman takes down Holiday after he reveals he is the previously thought to be murdered Alberto Falcone. Good son, huh? You're about as good of a son as Macaulay Culkin. Of course I'm talking about the movie. Don't come for me, Macaulay. I love you. I'm proud of you. You want to collab? We can now put 2 and 2 together as to why the coroner was murdered, as he knew too much about Alberto. Carmine meets with his son and says that if Alberto pleads guilty to only Maroni's killing and forgets about being Holiday, that he can get him out of this. Alberto then goes on a monologue about how his father never truly cared about him, but he's now someone as Holiday. He states that Falcone never even remembered his birthday, a holiday, Valentine's Day. Harvey Dent breaks all the criminals out of GCPD, besides Calendar Man. That's cold, dude. A group of Falcone's guards die in a laughing fit. Falcone goes with the remaining guards and Sophia downstairs. He then eventually finds the recently released Rogues Gallery in his office, flanked by Two-Face. Right before they can strike, the Bat and the Cat arrive through the window. The Rogues Gallery is captured one by one through the cover of smoke. Harvey takes Falcone by gunpoint, flips his coin, and puts one between his eyes. After trying to restrain Sophia, Catwoman loses her grip when Sophia struggles and falls out of the window. Dent knocks out Batman and escapes. Two-Face then visits Vernon to pay the piper. Harvey flips the coin saying, "Justice has two sides. Goodbye, Vernon." Batman then finds Two-Face on the roof of the GCPD where he actually lit the bat signal. Harvey says, "The long Halloween"
Roll credits. Surprisingly close to the credits, though.
"is over." Harvey refuses help from Gordon and asks to be arrested. Harvey then admits what everyone already knew. There were two holiday killers. Batman and Gordon lament on if all this was worth it. We see Gilda Dent packing her belongings and speaking to a Harvey that isn't actually there. You know, classic monologue. She states how she read his case files and how he would silence his pistol using a baby bottle nipple, reflecting more on the fact that they were actually trying to have a family again. She then begins burning all of Harvey's holiday gear until we learn that Gilda was the one leaving clues, because Gilda was the first holiday. Hoping that killing off the crime families would allow Harvey more time at home to start a family, Gilda committed the first round of holiday killings. We then learn that Harvey picked up exactly where she left off by following after and eventually killing Alberto Falcone. It all ends with a slightly messy plotline in service of a masterful twist and the phrase from Gilda, "I believe in Harvey Dent." That was Batman the Long Halloween. Quite a long story that stretches 13 issues, but even with the plot holes that it leaves behind with the three holiday killers, it has become one of the most influential stories in all of Batman lore. In fact, outside of being influenced for other Batman media over the last 25 years, most obviously The Dark Knight, we are also set to receive a 2-part animated series based on The Long Halloween, with part 1 coming out in the middle of 2021, close to the initially scheduled release of Matt Reeves' The Batman. Speaking of The Batman, the entire focus of this video was to deep dive into why this story is being pointed to as the heaviest influence on its script besides Batman Ego. Well, this video is already pretty long, and since I already gave an overview on The Batman in my last video, let's just cut to the chase. As I mentioned earlier, Matt Reeves has gone on record before saying that this film follows no actual previous Batman stories entirely. However, he has mentioned material such as the aforementioned Ego and Year One as being heavy inspirations. Another comic that fans have speculated is a major influence on this story is, of course, The Long Halloween. I'll get to where the intricacies lie, but first, I think we should just address the elephant in the room. Pattinson has the same exact facial hair in the movie as he does in the comic. Case closed. Not good enough? Fine. Besides the trailer itself, many set photos have leaked, showing striking similarities between this film and The Long Halloween. Let alone the fact that funerals, with a plural S, seem to be quite a pastime for the citizens of Gotham in this film. We can see our main cast leaving one of them with some very interesting details. Besides the outfits, which are extremely reminiscent of the ones found in that graphic novel, we can see 3 scratches along the face of Carmine Falcone. Now, these scratches are not actually callbacks to The Long Halloween, as some would like to say, but rather Year One, where Catwoman gave those scars to Falcone while attempting to rob him. Now, this gives us some insight into the fact that there will be some history and bad blood between Falcone and Catwoman. But I did want to address that this isn't a sign of The Long Halloween, as some would like to say that it is. Now, The Long Halloween did carry the story of those scars over from Year One, as it is the sequel story to it. But I would rather say that this shows more so that Year One does in fact have its elements of influence in this story. Now, The Long Halloween did carry the story of those scars over from Year One, and is the sequel story to it. However, I would rather say that this is more so just showing that Year One does in fact have a good amount of influence on this story as well. Zoe Kravitz, who plays Selena Kyle, has even reportedly read and researched the Year One story as preparations for her character as Catwoman, as well as studied some of that good old Michelle Pfeiffer action. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. What will be interesting to see is if these films explore the fan theory where Selina Kyle is actually the daughter of Carmine Falcone, just because this really isn't anything that we've seen explored in any kind of official Batman lore. I would like to focus more so here on the fact that the Gothamites are attending a plural number of funerals, which seems to fall in line with the Long Halloween, as it's of course based on murders happening on every single holiday, mainly involving the Falcone family. Could these funerals shown be for Johnny Viti or even Alberto Falcone? Now, in this film, it seems to be set up that the Riddler is the main villain, but I would like to point out that we haven't actually seen him yet. What we see is a figure with a bandaged up head committing murders and then leaving a series of clues for the GCPD and Batman to decipher. Now, I can hear all of you saying, Brad, who else is leaving Batman riddles besides the Riddler? You know what my answer to that is? Fair. However, I never said this wasn't the Riddler. In fact, I'm certain that it is. However, I believe this is a Riddler unlike we have ever seen before. This is a Riddler that I think has actually been combined with the Holiday Killer. And the mystery for Batman will be to learn what us as the audience already knows. Who is the Riddler? Another easy similarity to make based on the trailer and all of the leaked photos, you know, specifically those infamous ones of the Batsuit without Robert Pattinson in the Batsuit, is that Batman won't just be chasing down the Riddler, he'll be chasing down Catwoman. A lot. The Long Halloween is littered with scenes of Batman and Catwoman meeting on many rooftops, even opening with him stopping her from stealing from Falcone. This has been mirrored so much in the material that we've seen so far, from the bike chase to the mid-heist fight, that I am confident that we will see the same relationship between billionaire Bruce Wayne and socialite Selina Kyle that we saw in The Long Halloween. Another tidbit of information that we have received from Matt Reeves is that we are going to see a lot of villains in this movie. So far we can count on Catwoman, Carmine Falcone, the Riddler, and the Penguin. However, Reeves himself has stated that we should expect to see around 6 to 7 villains in this one film. This is why I don't think the crazy train's stopping anywhere near here. And this is why I'm confident in predicting that in the Batman, you can believe in Harvey Dent. I'm calling it right now that by the end of this film, we will see the transformation of Harvey Dent into Two-Face. When you add a possible appearance by Poison Ivy to do her dirty deed, that puts us right up to where we need to be on the villain count. I think this will be a huge influx of villains that in fact leads to Bruce accepting that this mission has now become bigger than him, thus leading to his partnership with the GCPD, his continued courting of Selina Kyle, and the addition of Robin to the team. Now, there is one final piece of the puzzle missing: Salvatore Maroni. In fact, nowhere have I even found a cast listing for a Salvatore Maroni. Myth busted? Hell no! You know I have an answer for that. I think we will see a competing crime lord with Carmine Falcone, but it's not gonna be Maroni. It'll be baloney.
Shut up!
I mean Penguin. Yup, I'm calling that Falcone will be protecting his turf from an up-and-coming crime lord known only as the Penguin. Now, nobody's gonna know who this Penguin is. However, they will be noticing that another Gotham socialite who used to be best friends with the Wayne family is acting a little strange lately. His name? Oswald Cobblepot. Now, even though this film will center on the Riddler, obviously, I think it's going to set up for the defeat of Riddler, the downfall of Falcone, and then it's going to set the stage for the rise of villains such as Penguin and Two-Face to cement their place within Gotham City. This will, as mentioned, compel Bruce to finally find his calling, responsibility, and purpose as Batman by the end of this film. As a side note, that awesome beatdown scene that we saw in the trailer,
I'm vengeance.
yeah, that one, that's going to be the final scene of the film. Just throwing that one out there. Finally, there was one more comparison that I wanted to make outside of The Long Halloween, but I just didn't think it deserved a video of its own. Those are the comparisons I've noticed between the shaping up of this film and what I experienced playing the masterclass that is Batman: The Telltale Series. For anyone that hasn't played it, I will both be keeping this spoiler free and will be inviting you to follow my Twitch channel, as shortly after this video comes up, I plan on playing both seasons on my channel. Link will be in the description below, and I truly recommend you check it out if you're a Batman fan. I've played this game countless times, and it has nothing less than the heart of what any Batman story should have. This is also why I truly do believe that Matt Reeves drew some inspiration from its content. To keep this as spoiler-free as possible, this series reflects on Bruce Wayne, his relationship with Selina Kyle, his relationship with his parents' relationship with Falcone, and how all those relationships have affected and shaped Gotham City over time. Furthermore, the limited synopsis that we have so far of the Batman states, in his second year of fighting crime, Batman explores the corruption that plagues Gotham City and how it may tie to his own family, in addition to coming into conflict with a serial killer known as the Riddler. Another relationship that is explored in Season 1 of the Telltale series is Bruce's relationship with his returning childhood friend, Oswald Cobblepot. Oswald and his family were very close with the Waynes, however both children lost their parents at around roughly the same time. Oswald went the opposite way of Bruce when all this happened, but now their paths are crossing again. And once they do, it leads for some very interesting content. Season 2 even involves Batman chasing after a sadistic Riddler. You can see where I'm making these connections here. I'll leave it at that since I know you're
thirsty for more.
Quench thy thirst with a follow to my Twitch, as I'll play Seasons 1, 2, and eventually 3 now that Telltale is back and Season 3 has been officially confirmed. We've touched on many interesting proposals, and I stand by every single one of them. It is here that I both leave you and thank you for joining me on my deep dive into Batman: The Long Halloween and how it is absolutely the framework for Matt Reeves' The Batman. Even though we have to wait until March of 2022 now for the film, maybe those question marks were right. Thanks, COVID. You won't have to wait much longer for the finale to this series. As I mentioned before, I'm aiming to have that final video to you guys by Christmas, 'cause I love giving you gifts. What is the topic, I hear you asking? Well, perhaps I'll have a special Black Friday surprise for you. The only way to find out is to first and foremost subscribe to this channel and then follow me on Twitter at Wulfpak_Inc. for more updates. The only hint that you'll get is that the next video will focus on what I believe will be the finale of Matt Reeves' trilogy. You heard that right. I will be predicting the final film in this series, possibly a decade, because let's be honest, who knows at this point, before it even comes out. So again, please hit subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you're enjoying our journey of deciphering the world's greatest detective with Metro Detroit's greatest YouTuber. Ring that bell for notifications of all future uploads. Follow the social medias. Use them social medias to share this video with all the favorite Bat fans in your life. And I'll catch you guys next time. Same Wolf time, same Wolf channel. And this is the Wolf Man. Signing out.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.